coming up on
He
Tempered.
went to a neurologist in the beginning, but even the neurologist said, it's not anything to be concerned about, and so it took several years to get a diagnosis because he was so young, and it was like the unknown and all the searching for what is this thing, what's going on with my body, was more difficult than the actual diagnosis.
So it's been going on, about 12, 13, 14 years, possibly?
Different people have been brought into our lives, into Drew's life, that he never would have met if it hadn't have been for Parkinson's, different friends and mentors and encouragers. And then he has been able to use his story to help other people too. It's becoming a pretty, I don't want to say common disease, but, we hear of more and more people with it. He gets phone calls from people all the time, younger people with early onset to older people. And he tries to use his experience and what he's been through to give it meaning and purpose by helping
someone else.
My junior year was when I was in this really difficult relationship that led at the beginning of my senior year to what was diagnosed as a clinical depression, and I was having some panic attacks and severe anxiety. I couldn't get out of bed or get out to class. I would call my dad at work and just cry, and he would help me just get out of the bed to get to the shower or get from the shower, to class. It was a really difficult time. Yes, our faith and our hope in the Lord can be what carries us through hard times, but mental health issues are not caused by a lack of faith. That's what I hear sometimes, or so many times, is, they just lack of faith, that, and
I've heard that.
And while a lack of faith can certainly cause problems in our lives, it's not the cause of mental health.
Issues.
Our mental health is just like our physical health, because I've struggled with anxiety, off and on my whole life. And anxiety is not even necessarily a bad thing. It's our brain's way of trying to keep us safe. It's when it gets blown out of proportion that it, can be detrimental for us. But neuroscience now has come out with so many studies about how the brain has a neuroplasticity to it, that we can alter our brain from a very negative, anxious mindset to a more positive mindset by specifically, controlling what thoughts we let come into our head, or what things we consume or allow ourselves to dwell on.
Hello, and welcome to Tempered, a show where we will share the experiences of Christian women who have faced hardship and emerged stronger. I am Jenny Cochran, your host. Tempered can be defined as softened or moderated or seasoned to bring to a proper or desired state. In our show, we will deal with many topics that may affect Christian women in the 21st century, topics that can change us, temper us, bring us to a new place spiritually. Welcome to Tempered. I hope you will enjoy our show.
Today we have Julie Kizer. She's been with us once before, and we talked about her journey through infertility and adoption and fostering. I know this is going to resonate with many women at home who are carrying invisible burdens that maybe no one knows about.
Mm-hmm.
You are a counselor,
Mm-hmm.
a mental health therapist,
Yes.
a mother.
Yes.
So your plate is very full,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're fostering.
Mm-hmm. It's helpful for me to be able to share our journey with infertility and adoption, and then now where life has taken us with Drew's health, because, I truly believe that the things that we go through, when we can share those kind of gives what we've been through meaning and purpose.
Purpose.
Yeah.
And comes full circle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
To begin, let's start at the beginning. Tell us how you and Drew met.
Okay. We met at Freed-Hardeman University as students in the mid to late 90s. I had been in a relationship prior to before meeting and dating Drew that was just not a healthy relationship for me, and it was very difficult for me. You know, I don't want to say too much about it, but it just left me my eyes open to be able to appreciate so much more about Drew's more calm demeanor and just his sense of humor, and you know, just the way he treated me and that we interacted with each other. And I think I was prepared for that and appreciated it more because of a prior very difficult relationship that I had been in. And dated for about 3 years, and then we were married, and we've been married for 26 years, and we have 2 children. Ava is 19 and a freshman at Freed-Hardeman, and Jackson is 15, and he's a freshman in high school.
You had been married a number of years, and Drew began to have some signs, symptoms he began to notice.
Now, looking back, apparently they were signs that can indicate Parkinson's, but at the time we had no idea. He was only 37 years old and was having some low back pain, or when he would try to run, because he would jog for exercise, his legs started dragging, and we just were chalk it up to, well, it was something with his hip flexor, or it was something with the low back, or he also had a lot of shoulder pain and issues. But again, we tried the orthopedic doctor. He tried a chiropractor. He went to a neurologist in the beginning, but even the neurologist said, it's not anything to be concerned about, and so it took several years to get a diagnosis because he was so young. But then probably about 2 or 3 years into all that was when the tremor started showing up, and that was a more telling symptom, that led him back to neurologist. But even then, they either thought it was what's called an essential tremor, or they ran other tests, and in the beginning didn't want to call it Parkinson's because, again, he was still, late 30s and so young. And while early onset Parkinson's is a thing, they just weren't ready to give him that diagnosis. It was almost like a relief for him once he got the diagnosis, because then he knew what he was facing and what he could deal with. It was like the unknown and all the searching for what is this thing, what's going on with my body, was more difficult than the actual diagnosis. And that's not to say he hasn't had a lot of hard days and hard times with it, but the buildup of, of trying to find that answer or that diagnosis, in my memory, looking back, seemed to be some of the hardest times. With the kids, we've always tried to kind of downplay it, or at least let them see all the things Drew can still do, and all the ways he's still strong and healthy, and that it has altered some things about his life, but Parkinson's is not a death sentence,
Right.
It's not fatal. And so I think once the kids realized that, they've never seemed overly worried or anxious about it, although our daughter, she's quieter and kind of keeps things to herself. So, if she has worried about it, she hasn't really
She hasn't said
verbalized
much.
that. But I mentioned earlier, one of the things I love about Drew is his sense of humor, and he's used a lot of humor in dealing with it.
And dealing with them.
Yeah, and
True.
is able to just kind of laugh at the situation, or laugh at himself, and not take it so seriously that, and I think that has helped them too.
Of course, none of us know what tomorrow will bring. But has this affected how you look at your future?
Honestly, I try not to let it.
Good.
I don't know if, I know sometimes if, everybody has hard days. And I know some days, he might think about what could this look like in 10, 15, 20 years down the road. But, we could do the what ifs about anything in our lives. This just happens to be, the thing we deal with or that he lives with, but it doesn't define him, and it doesn't, it might affect him in certain ways, but for the most part, he's still very physically active and
still can do his work, his study, his visits. Yes. Yeah. His writing. He's a prolific writer.
Yeah. Yeah. And he just in December had the deep brain stimulation surgery where they put the wire in and a battery pack in his chest, that helps communicate to his brain, that helps. So that was kind of one of those things he was wanting to save till all the other medications and everything had been, tried. But so I think now he kind of feels excited about how this is going to help, hopefully for the next, hopefully the rest of his life, and they're continuing to come out with new research and treatments and things all the time. So
it's been going on, about 12, 13, 14 years, possibly?
Different people have been brought into our lives, into Drew's life, that he never would have met if it hadn't have been for Parkinson's, different friends and mentors and encouragers. And then he has been able to use his story to help other people too. It's becoming a pretty, I don't want to say common disease, but, we hear of more and more people with it. He gets phone calls from people all the time, younger people with early onset to older people. And he tries to use his experience and what he's been through to give it meaning and purpose by helping
someone else.
Yeah.
Comes full circle again, just like you were saying.
Yeah. He's even written a book called Sufficient Grace that talks about his journey with this disease and how God's grace is sufficient.
So you are a mental health counselor, therapist. What made you want to go that direction in your life?
Well, my original degree, or my bachelor's degree, when I was studying at Freed-Hardeman, was in child and family studies, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. I didn't think I wanted to be a teacher or an educator, but I wanted to do something with children. And my junior year was when I was in this really difficult relationship that led at the beginning of my senior year to what was diagnosed as a clinical depression. And I was having some panic attacks and severe anxiety. I couldn't get out of bed or get out to class. I would call my dad at work and just cry, and he would help me just get out of the bed to get to the shower or get from the shower, to class. It was a really difficult time. And there was a counselor on campus that I went and talked to several times. And I'd never thought about counseling. I'd never thought about participating in it. I'd never thought about that as a career, but going through that experience and him helping me through that time. And then a few months later, a close friend of mine went through something similar, and I was able to help her. And it And then they had just started the Masters of Counseling program at Freed Hardeman. I think it was in its maybe second or third year, and it just kind of fell into place as the next step in my career journey, and it's felt right ever since. You know, all the classes were very interesting, you know, and just something that I felt really strongly and passionately about, and the career path has always felt like the right one for me in all the different arenas I've worked in mental health. It's always felt, you know, like something I was meant to do. I don't know if people are actually meant to do things, but
I think so.
Yeah.
The Apostle Paul, you know, the Bible speaks of mental health issues, and two different places, Paul gives us some instruction, some direction. So Philippians 4 through 6, read that for us.
Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, rejoice. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus.
So Paul is saying, it's talking about anxiety. And Paul is saying that there is a way to ease that anxiety. But then he doesn't stop there.
He goes on.
Read verses 8 and 9.
Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you.
So he's showing us, he's telling us these are things that can help our peace, increase our peace, help get rid of that anxiety.
Right. That was a verse that you used to quote to me all the time as a child and a teenager, because I've struggled with anxiety, you know, off and on my whole life, and anxiety is not even necessarily a bad thing. It's our brain's way of trying to keep us safe. It's when it gets blown out of proportion that it, you know, can be detrimental for us. But you know, neuroscience now has come out with so many studies about how the brain has a neuroplasticity to it that we can alter our brain from a very negative, anxious mindset to a more positive mindset by specifically, you know, controlling what thoughts we let come into our head, or what things we consume or allow ourselves to dwell on. And it, you know, Paul told us that all those years ago. God told us all of that in His Word.
We can stop it from overwhelming us.
The God who created our brains, you know, tells us in His Word how.
Well, Julie, you are in the mental health field. You constantly help people process their pain, but you have to take care of yourself. So there has to be a balance in caring for others, in caring for Drew and encouraging Drew, in caring and leading and guiding a little foster child. How do you care for yourself? How do you find that space to take care of Julie?
You know, sometimes it has to be in more creative ways, like, and it has to maybe be in smaller increments, in a car ride from daycare to work, or from, you know, when I have time by myself. But obviously, staying in the Word and staying connected closely to my church family. And, you know, Drew and I try to always communicate openly about what we're feeling and thinking, and so that it doesn't build up within us. Sometimes we have to find, you know, little segments of time to do that, you know, especially right now with a foster child, but little glimmers of peace and hope, throughout the day. And then, when you have bigger amounts of times, it's important to take time to rest or to have a hobby or to do things that we enjoy doing that can help us. Because you're right, we do have to take care of ourselves. We can't pour from an empty cup.
Do you ever feel pressure to have it all together? Is this something that you struggle with?
I think I used to when I was younger and maybe more prideful, but as I've gotten older, I've learned that it's more important to have meaningful connections with people, and we can't do that if we're acting like we have it all together, and
right.
we're not being real with people, and
that pride gets in there, and we don't see our own vulnerability. The mom in the family, I think a lot of us as women struggle with that pressure. And
well, and I've noticed with people that I have the privilege of working with that, yes, they trust and want me to have answers, but I think it also can be more meaningful to them when it's something that I've been through, and I can, share that on a small level. I don't know exactly how you feel, but I've been where, I've experienced different things before. And if I'm pretending like I have it all together, then they may wonder, does she even really fully understand what I'm going through or what this experience has been like? So no, I don't feel like I have to have it all together anymore.
Good. Age has matured.
Yeah.
Us, age does that.
And I never did have it all together, just to be clear,
Yeah. For years, there's been a stigma about Christians. Christians shouldn't have to go to counseling, shouldn't have to get therapy. That's stigma. I think it's better. Do you think that stigma has improved some?
I do. I think it probably still, maybe in pockets of the world, is still an issue. But I do think that we've come a long ways, and I hope we continue to, because it's yes, our faith and our hope in the Lord can be what carries us through hard times, but mental health issues are not caused by a lack of faith. That's what I hear sometimes, or so many times, is, well, they just lack of faith, that, and
I've heard that.
And while a lack of faith can certainly cause, problems in our lives, it's not the cause of mental health issues. Our mental health is just like our physical health. Some people struggle with diabetes, or some people struggle with with heart disease. Well, our mental health and those diseases too are just the same kind of diseases as, the physical too.
Right. And it's life, and life is full of it. Physical, mental, all kinds. Emotional.
Right.
So we've been talking about the weight of long-term challenges, especially when we don't see a solution coming. We're in the middle of it. Again, the Apostle Paul writes about this. 2 Corinthians 12, 7 through 9. Paul is actually talking about himself. So read 7 through 9.
So to keep me from becoming conceited because of the surprising greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given to me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to harass me, to keep me from becoming conceited. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it should leave me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong.
For when I am weak, that's when I'm strong.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I'm on my knees in that prayer the most.
Well, it's because that's the strength that comes from God.
God himself.
Yeah.
And when we're going through all this, we don't see an end of it. We don't see a solution. We don't see a healing. But we know God is there.
Mm-hmm.
And God is present with us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also what Paul is saying.
Mm-hmm.
You said, and I think you're right, to not dwell on the future or what's going to come in the future. That's wise.
Mm-hmm. That strength also comes through his people, through either through family support or church family support and friends. We've had a lot of support from all of our people.
The first step is saying, I need help.
Right.
That's always the first step.
Yeah.
You have to come to the place.
Because often people don't know when someone needs help. Some people are good at covering it up or masking it, so you're right. It's important to be able to ask for help and to seek help from someone that either that has been through something similar before, or someone that you can trust. And
and many times these are quiet, unseen battles that no one knows I'm going through.
Right.
So
right.
It's important to have a friend, have a sister in Christ, have an elder who is compassionate and kind.
Yeah.
Having a dad or a mom who can walk through that with you.
And it's important, if you're the one that someone comes to, to be a listener and not try to judge, not try to give too much advice, not to, but to just listen and support in a quiet way. Sometimes just being there with someone,
right?
Even when we don't know what to say, is better than saying too much or saying the wrong thing, or
just being that shoulder to cry on or that listening ear sometimes is the most important.
Right. Yeah.
I have no answers, but I can listen. I can pray with you.
Right.
So thank you so much.
Thank you for
having
me.
Being here and sharing, being open and being honest and sharing your journey with Drew. I know there are people out there that are going through those quiet struggles, and we get weary going through it.
Sure.
So I hope many...
There's also nothing wrong with reaching out to a counselor.
That's exactly right.
Because sometimes, an unbiased opinion or someone that can just listen, that's not in your everyday life, can be helpful too. So,
wow, this has been great. Thank you. I hope this is an encouragement to many who will watch
I hope so too.
Identify with things we've talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. God bless you and Drew and your precious family.
Thank you.